And welcome back to the CODESHO podcast, everybody. We've got Rachel here on the line, Kevin's girlfriend. She actually was a star in the last episode with him that she came on. She was in the background there. So now we've got her on. We're pretty excited to have her. I'm going to hand it over to Matt again to introduce her.
Yeah, okay. So this is my friend Rachel Hale. Uh, she actually came to my wedding in Korea, which was awesome. There's a lot of work flying halfway across the world, but she's been a professional programmer for 6 years. She's a unicorn because she's a full stack developer at what was it,
Yep.
Accord.com, like sales software.
A real full stack developer.
A real full stack developer. Also worked at Amazon and Zillow, so she's had an amazing career. I also am really interested about this interview because compared with people like Randy and me and Kevin, we all went to DigiPen, so our story is a lot the same, right? But I don't really know exactly how Rachel got started. So let's actually just start from the beginning.
Mhm.
What was it? So like, what and how? Like, what's the reasons and how did you get into programming?
So it started when I was at school. I was at UC Santa Barbara, and I was doing computer engineering. But then at that point, I had some friends who were doing electrical engineering, and I was wondering, like, I had taken a couple Java classes, and I was just kind of talking to some friends, and they were saying electrical engineering gives you more flexibility. Like, if you want to go back to program, you can, but if you stay with computer engineering or computer science, you won't be able to go over to electrical. So I was like, okay, I'll do electrical engineering. So I switched my major like my second year, and I didn't do any more software classes, and just learned a bunch of circuits and
Did
EM
you get
stuff.
shocked a lot?
Oh.
I hear that. So there's like a story in the Steve Jobs like autobiography book, or he didn't write it. But like Steve Wozniak was the guy who built the circuit. He says electrical engineer guys aren't afraid to get shocked. So they had a game where you'd stick your finger in like Russian roulette for shocking. And he goes, but the software people are always scared of getting shocked. So
That is ridiculous
Yeah.
because I got shocked as a kid, like when I was like 16, by an electrical outlet, and it is terrible. Let me tell you, that is an awful feeling. You do not want to do it again after you've done it before. That's funny though.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was too scared to, like, I think some people put capacitors on backwards on their circuits and saw what happened then, but I was too scared. I was like, I don't want to mess with that.
did you ever
Um,
fry any? Sorry, did you ever fry any LEDs? Like pop the LEDs? Like if
no,
you oh really?
no, I didn't.
You're much better than me. I played with some breadboards years ago, and like you like overload it or whatever. I don't know about
Oh,
there's
so you just like blew the fuse, an
yeah, yeah,
LED.
yeah.
That's funny though, because when we bring people on, one thing that I've asked a few people, like myself, I think Matt feels a little bit the same way. Like engineering, even software engineering, is interesting because I think there's a lot of parallels to like other engineering, and it feels like software engineers typically like some other form of engineering. I like woodworking. I also like electrical engineering, although I'm not very good at it. But like what made you do you think that software engineering was like appealing because just in general you find yourself to be like the engineering type, and then like um yeah, like do you think that like there's any parallels between electrical and software engineering?
Um, Not in the industry I landed in after I graduated. I landed in an industry called EDA software, like the software they use to like actually route and design circuits is really, it's basically like drag and drop boxes and like click a button to run simulations, and it just, I don't know, it didn't even feel like engineering anymore. It's like if I'm using this software to do hardware, like
Mhm.
I feel like I'm not really doing anything gratifying. Like my favorite part was writing scripts to like automate the flow. So I like learned Tickle and wrote scripts, and I was like, this is way cooler than what I'm doing. I could
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just like automating stuff on the in like Bash or Tickle just seemed way more. It's just like instant gratification. It's like you run a program and then you see the outcome, but with like the circuit design stuff I was doing, I mean, really, the gratification comes when the chip is actually fabricated, and that happens way down the line. So I didn't even stick around the industry to wait and see.
But
Mhm.
but
you know,
but you did graduate with an EE degree. So you
Mhm.
you switched your major and then you graduate with that EE, like electrical engineering degree,
Mhm.
but then you just didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah. So I spent like a couple years doing like ASIC design, which is application specific integrated circuits. So it was like this startup that took in a bunch of interns, and we learned how to like place and route and timing simulation. When I learned Perl there, so it's like I had a couple jobs in hardware where I learned scripting languages, and that was my by far my favorite part of hardware at the time. And I just felt like I'm wasting my time. So, and I didn't
fun.
really, yeah, I didn't really answer your question about are there any parallels between electrical engineering and software development. I mean, I could think of some, but like basically I just found myself in an industry, a hardware industry that was like really not interesting at all to me. And I wasn't really learning a lot. Like there wasn't like, with software programming, you have a problem, like you have a bug and you just search and there's like a huge internet community. Like there wasn't that stuff. Like you can't self-teach electrical engineering and you have to like rely on coworkers and
there's no Stack Overflow for where to drag and drop your integrated circuits or whatever.
Exactly. There's not. So I just felt like I was wasting my time.
They actually do have some like the Stack Exchange pages for like electrical engineering, and I've seen some of them before, and the people in there are wicked smart. I mean, it's crazy how smart those guys are. But you had mentioned ASICs. Is that I'm just curious, is that at all like the same thing as like what they use for like Bitcoin mining?
So Bitcoin mining, I thought was just like a server that I don't even know how Bitcoin mining works, but like ASICs are like very specific, like single purpose chips that they put in like a computer or like just any kind of household device. So I imagine like for Bitcoin mining, you actually just use your computer, right? And
well, it sounds like that might be exactly what they use for Bitcoin mining because they use so for some cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, a lot of people do it on just their computer or whatever. They use their graphics card. But with Bitcoin mining, because of how big it got, I don't know. I'm not gonna get the year right, but I'm gonna guess it was like maybe 2007, 2010. I don't know, somewhere around there. These people started making ASICs, is what they call them, ASICs, and I don't know what that stands for, but they're very specific to Bitcoin, and they specifically mine Bitcoin's algorithm. That's the only thing that they do, and they're very well designed just for mining Bitcoin.
That sounds like they just had an ASIC for Bitcoin mining.
Here I am thinking that ASIC is like a Bitcoin thing, and it's actually like, so an ASIC is just like a all-purpose, or not it's an all-purpose term for specific applications.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a very specific use circuit.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds like exactly what it is. So I don't know, like I'm kind of getting into the whole crypto world lately. So it's interesting hearing you say that term because I've been like, oh, I've been thinking about that lately.
So I want to hear what you did after you, like you said, you were losing interest in the electrical engineering part, but can we go back a little bit? Because I feel like you left something out because you went to college for software engineering. Like that's what you said. That was your original major. But what made you decide that? Did you ever do programming on your own before, or what was the reason why you got started there?
So, well, it was computer engineering, so it wasn't exactly software engineering. Computer engineering is like some gray area between electrical and software. But I was just thinking I wanted to do something that had to do with computers. I hadn't dabbled in programming as a kid. I just had used computers and was very familiar with them. And I was just thinking it'd be really cool to learn how monitors work, how they like project this information to you and how you can interact with it. So I was like thinking maybe someday I'd learn about displays.
How old were you when you had that thought? That's a cool thought. I don't think
it's like
high school I wasn't thinking about that.
I think I was already in college. I actually went to UCSB. I was like 17 when I went in because I had a late birthday and I was just like trying to pick a major. I was like, anthropology might be cool. And then I got a little push from my dad to get into engineering. I was like, well, if I'm going to do engineering, it should be with computers because that's all I know.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, it wasn't like this well thought out process where I was weighing the pros and cons. I was just thinking, what would be cool to learn about? So.
I like that though. I think that's usually that. I mean, that is like the driver for a lot of people. It's like, hey, this thing seems like it might be cool, or this thing seems like it might be interesting.
Yeah. So after you got your electrical engineering degree, did you ever go do any kind of boot camp, or did you get another degree like Kevin? Or
No. So what I did was I decided I was going to self-study. I thought about boot camp really hard, and sometimes I regret not pulling the trigger there and just doing it. But I was like, you know what? I know Java. I took 2 classes at college, and I know a little bit of C, C++, and a bunch of scripting languages. So why don't I just get some textbooks and self-study, which was pretty hard to inflict on myself.
Pretty bold.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I got a Java book on data structures and algorithms, and just prepped for interviews. And I found that.
Do you remember the book, by the way? Is it just called Algorithms in Java by Robert Sedgwick? Was it like a green or red cover?
That sounds familiar.
I'm a book nerd, so like.
Oh, I actually found that one later. That wasn't the first one I did. You're talking about the red one?
Yeah.
Princeton professor.
I was just curious. I read Algorithms in C, which by the same author, by Robert Sedgwick. So I was just curious because I know they're popular.
It is. It never ceases to impress me that you guys can read these books, and like I think it's like it makes you sound smarter. Like it's so cool that you guys can read a book. I just cannot consume any information from a book at all. I cannot retain it.
So I remember saying, and I've told this to my wife. I said, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be like the smartest or like the best programmer, but the thing I can control is I can just read the most books. I mean, obviously not the most, but that was always my thing. It's like, okay, I think that if I read enough of these books, I must be getting a little smarter. So that's why I'll push myself to read more. Are you able
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up this book.
I mean, it's not like I recommend this book. This is just like, this is the first book I bought to help me study for software interviews.
Yeah, I'm trying to show it real quick. There we go.
Oh.
Yeah, that purple one.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't what I was thinking of, but that's cool.
Robert.
Yeah. Definitely recommend Sedgwick over LaFleur. I like discovered that one later and like loved it. He definitely recommend
what was
the
this
red
other thing
algorithms
that you?
book.
Oh, that's her. In Accord is her current company.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll come back to this.
Yeah. Okay, so you self-studied.
Mm-hmm.
You grinded your way through a data structures and algorithms book, which are not like easy books to learn. So did you quit? Had you quit your current job, or are you doing self-study while you're working?
Oh no, I don't even know where I got the confidence to do this, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna quit, and I'm going to study. Which I guess is the only way I could have done it because it was so new to me. I don't know if I could have kept a job and studied at that point because I had so much to learn. I was so far behind. So I just remember getting that book, studying, and then just kind of flinging my resume out to startups. And I did get some interest right away. I think having an engineering degree really like puts you to the forefront of.
Maybe you are a genius, and because you were saying that all the electrical engineering people are really smart.
Yeah.
And we were talking before we were recording, and I was saying I was interested in your story, and I said like not because I want people to say like, oh, you're not just a genius, that you worked hard. And I said I know that she worked hard, but as I'm talking with her, I think she's like super smart.
Yeah.
Well, let's finish talking, Matt.
Okay.
I am flattered, but like I'm not gonna let you just
okay. So also were you working still in South Carolina at the time? Where was that first job?
Oh, okay. So I was never in South Carolina. I was in Santa Barbara was where I went to school.
Sorry.
That's California.
Yeah. Oh, okay. My mistake.
Yeah. So I was in the Bay Area and I was working in like San Jose, and then I was interviewing at startups. So I actually interviewed for Facebook. They took let me come on campus, and this is like 2014,
Cool.
to interview, without any programming like experience on my resume, just my degree.
Yeah.
And I think so I talked to some about some projects. But so that first Facebook interview was really just like a kick in the face. I was like, oh shoot, this is I had no idea this is what programming interviews were like. And so then it became clear that I didn't need to learn how to program. I needed to learn how to get through programming interviews.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so then I switched tactics, got like cracking the coding interview.
Oh yeah.
Went on Hacker Rank. I don't know what was around at the time. So I was just like, okay, to get a job, I could have started like a project of my own and spun up a website, but
yeah, I agree with you. There is a difference in what you need to know to be like a good programmer versus successfully completing interviews.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because we talk about this a lot, like how to prepare for jobs. It's the kind of demographic that we're kind of catering this podcast towards is probably a more junior audience that's trying to get into programming. So and it's just, I gotta reiterate, it's so crazy so far. Like having these people on, like literally everybody's approach getting in is like so crazy different. Yeah. And yours is really, really cool. So aside from like the obvious, like what really is the difference? Like I forget exactly what you said, but you said something like, I don't need to prepare for actual programming job. Like I need to prepare for the interview. What does that actually mean? What's the difference, and what did it look like for you for your first round of interviews and getting your first job?
So I learned that there's a format, like you're going to be asked to write a function, and it's going to involve like you're going to have some knowledge of databases or data structures and algorithms, and you're going to have to be able to talk their language. You're going to have to know Big O notation. So it was really, luckily there's a lot out there about how to prepare for those kind of interviews. Yeah. So
Cracking the Code interviews are a really good book. Yeah.
And there's a lot out there too, besides that book. Basically I got all the books I could think of and just went through them, and whatever my mind can handle in a given day, I would try to go through the questions, and a lot of them were so hard. So I was just like, I knew that they could hit me with a question that I was going to have no idea about. And so this leads me to the first job I got as a developer, was with a startup. I had an interview in 2014 in Redwood City. And it was as I expected. I had a loop with different engineers, and they would ask me questions. It's like, I remember one of them was a whiteboard about how would we, something to do with randomization and how we could like imitate like probability of drawing like a different color marble out of a bowl or something. And I remember like thinking like, oh my gosh, I am not answering
this.
I tried, but I was thinking the whole time, like, I didn't do good enough. He had to like give me a bunch of hints, and he eventually like helped me get to the solution at the end. And that's not at all what they want. But I learned that was all right. And they like offered me a job, and I was just like, what? Like, you guys That's awesome. So I was just super stoked. And that job was a Java backend. That was my first backend job.
And you had, so you knew Java, but you had no idea about backend. They just hired you because you are obviously smart enough in the interview.
Yeah. So I either like held a good enough poker face or answered the questions right. I really don't know what they're looking for, because I felt that whole time, I felt like I was not good enough. There was no way they were going to make me an offer. So it's really hard to tell what companies look for. It's like that's because we've talked about this as well. It is so hard to know where, like, because I've definitely done interviews where I thought, oh, I did like both ways. I nailed that interview. Oh yeah, I'm so good. They're going to hire me, and I won't get a call back. What? Yeah.
And then some where I was like, oh, I did horrible. and then they'll want to move on to the next round.
Yeah, I think the point that you made was important. I think you said it a couple episodes ago, and it seems like it's definitely true. And when I'm interviewing people, I catch myself doing the same thing. It's like I care less about the end product and more about like how you got there. And if you can explain it well and I can understand your head, I think that's really what they're looking for, not that you delivered a perfect end product. I mean, after all, it's an interview and you probably don't have time to refine it as much as you'd want to anyways. And it's not realistic. They're just looking to see how does your brain solve problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
Mhm.
think that's a good interview because I think that I went to some interviews with maybe not great companies, and I think they were just upset that I didn't get the exact answer they wanted. Even though so it is hard because all companies are different and all interviewing managers are different.
Yeah. I mean, I think somebody that like you might not want that job anyways. Like if they're going to
That's
be like that, it's
yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
creating an artificial scenario that doesn't even exist in real life anyways.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't how we program. So if we are going to do this, your approach to judging my skill by just looking at the end product is fundamentally flawed. Like
Yeah.
you're not doing this the right way. You should be doing it a different way. So but going back to your first job, um just for like a timeline from the moment that you started when you told yourself like I'm actually going to do software engineering instead, how long did it take you from that point until you got your first interview with this company, and then how long was the interview process?
Um, I really can't say. I don't think it was that long. I think I got lucky. I think applying for a startup was the way to go for me. Because, like I said, I also applied at Facebook, and that went awful. Um, so it wasn't that bad, and I just can't tell you how long it actually took. I don't remember.
Did you feel
Um,
like after you were done at that first job, going into your second interview phase, like was it easier that time? Like do you feel like you were more confident going into that, or
no
same
way.
thing?
I
No
don't even
way.
know if it's at this point if it's I'm any more confident
It's
because
intimidating.
Yeah.
it's so intimidating, and you never know who is going to come into the room and what their personality is like, and if they're going to be like approachable or they're going to be like really hard and just
Yeah,
give
yeah.
you like a really tough problem and not give you any hints. So I just have not. It has not gotten easier for me, unfortunately. I wish I could say that it has for those
Yeah.
people who are nervous about interviews, but like,
It's just oh well, I think that is still good advice, right? Like so even from somebody like senior like you, it's not easier. So don't feel like you're an idiot when you get into that interview. It's designed to be hard. It's
Yeah.
it's designed to be
mhm.
hard, possibly stressful. It's kind of like it's up in the air, you know. Like you said, you don't know who's going to come into the interview. So like it's I don't think it's something that you can master. And I think that is positive advice for other people. It's like, "Oh, you didn't get that interview question, you're an idiot." No, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Like even for really smart people.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to softball you. They're going to I mean I think it's reasonable to go into it and expect that the company is going to give you the hardest problem that they can, or at least try to really challenge you.
Yeah.
So like by design, you're going to be very challenged.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I think people have this expectation that like if I don't go in there and just absolutely nail it and get it perfect, that I'm not going to get the job. And it's like by design you're not supposed to get it
Somebody
perfect.
at
It's
that
going to be
company,
hard.
somebody at that company is probably smarter than you, or like 99% smarter than you, right? And they're gonna get that person in the interview and ask you that question to push to see how smart you actually are.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it.
Culturally, I think we're very competitive people, very competitive set of people in this country. And I think that, yeah, I mean, it's okay to understand that there's going to be people more talented than you, and they've
Yeah.
spent a lot of time trying to make this as hard as they can
Mhm.
to know the most about you. So, um, do you, in your current role, do you do any interviewing yourself?
No, I haven't. We are not hiring right now, like so many companies. The last time I interviewed was at Zillow. I worked there for almost 2 years and started interviewing. And I was just thinking about what you were saying, how interviewers will come up with like a pretty hard problem and push you to see how you perform under stress and
Mhm.
just with the unknown. And Zillow actually had a pretty good way of interviewing. They have you stick with the same problem, and so like whoever you interview, interns or seniors, like you just ask the same problem, and that way you start having a guide, a template. It's like how interns perform or just junior levels, and you can kind of like gauge it. So I wonder how many companies actually do that. I wonder if Facebook does that, for example. Just people ask the same question, and then although I don't know what happens when maybe they don't have to, and I don't know. That's an interesting question. How do people pick questions, and do they change them up, and how are their expectations managed?
Yeah. How many people? So you're saying that when you were at Zillow, you did interview people for positions, right? That's what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Were you would you consider yourself like a pretty tough, well, I guess first, actually, before I ask that, what was your role in the interview process for them? Like, what were you doing? Were you doing like behavioral or testing skill, or what was your role in the interview process?
It was, so are you saying, because like I was part of the loop, so I had to ask them a whiteboard question.
Okay.
And I think there was some focus on like core values. There's always like, you have to keep in mind that you need to focus on, I forgot what it was, like the last interview I did, but like on top of a coding question, you do have to keep in mind like, oh, you're going to kind of question them about this company, this core value, like act with integrity, or I don't know if that was it. But so then you kind of ask questions at the beginning or the end just to get a feel for if they fit that core value of the company.
I see.
So like, do you by chance remember like maybe like what the whiteboard question was that you were asking people?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember thinking like, I'm going to pick a question that's not very hard, but it's like a question that you would feel is fair. Like it's not too straightforward. So it was a binary tree question, and I'm thinking, I'm just trying to, I can't remember exactly what it was.
Or mid, or like.
It was the same question I asked for different roles.
So she said, so for intern to junior or whatever, so that she could get a gauge of like what kind of answer would a junior give versus a senior. That's what she was saying.
Okay.
So that's why she was wondering if other companies do the same thing.
Do you think a junior, so you would ask a junior developer questions about binary trees?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay. That just seems tough. Like I know I didn't know anything about binary trees as a junior developer. I'd have flopped.
Well, I mean, that expectation just came from the questions I was asked as a junior developer. It's like, oh, okay, so that's binary trees. If you like read Cracking the Coding interview or just like any interview prep, it's like that's smack in the middle of like the long list of things they expect you to know. Like I wasn't going to ask graph problems.
I think if I go back, I'm definitely like as a junior developer, I think I'm definitely learning binary trees, like big O notation. There was another thing that I was thinking earlier, but like none of those things are really all that hard. I just, for some reason, I remember like as a junior developer hearing the term binary tree, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds super complicated. And then later on, I looked into it. It's obviously not that complicated, but yeah, I think that's actually, it's interesting that you say that. That's something that I would definitely learn going back if I was going through it again. So, okay. So anyway, so what, sorry, I interrupted you. What was the question?
So I'm thinking it was either something like determine if a binary tree is balanced, or I, you know what I think it was? I'm just sorry. I was just it's been a while. I think it was is this binary tree a binary search tree? I think that was what it was. Which the difference is binary tree is just any like maximum 2-child node, graph type thing, but binary search tree has the restriction that the left child has to be less than or equal to the parent, and then the right child is greater than or equal to the parent, or there's some variations on that. So just like given a binary tree, is it a binary search tree?
Did you ever have anybody that just like flopped, and how did you respond to that as the interviewer?
No, not really. I had one guy who was coming in as an intern just nail it. I was wow, nice. Good job.
You studied well.
Yeah, and he even like optimized it, and so I was like, wait, does that actually cover the case for this? Oh, it does. Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he would.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying he was coming right out of school. He didn't really have any experience, so I was just led me to believe that people coming from computer science programs were more familiar with like structures like binary trees.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna be honest. Like, whenever I've interviewed people, now that you say that, I feel like I've had really good luck, and I've been very impressed with like a lot of the junior developers and interns that I've interviewed. Probably more so than like even the mid or seniors, because I feel like I'm always like unimpressed. Like it's
Mm.
like it feels like you are over.
Overselling yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
like overselling yourself a little bit. Whereas like the junior guys, especially like I think Patrick is like he calls himself, like a junior developer, but the guy is wicked talented.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's really, really impressive. And if he went into an interview as a junior, I think anybody'd be like, dang, this
Mhm.
dude's got it figured out. You know what I mean? So that's been my experience at least. But um I think these guys like they just have a lot to prove as a junior developer, and I think that that's a really good thing. Like I think that when people are really new to it and they're junior and they really want to prove themselves, like I wish that attitude would stick with people even later on in their career.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
always, like you're never going to be the best, so just keep moving
Yeah,
upwards.
keep learning. Yeah,
Whereas these junior guys, they just learn a ton. Even James that we used to work with, that guy
yeah,
was wicked talented for
yeah,
somebody that was like a junior
yeah.
developer.
We worked with this guy who was 19. When did he start? At 18,
Mhm.
and he was just a great front end developer. Like he really knew JavaScript like really well. I was impressed.
Yeah, he was pretty like introverted, and so like even in the beginning, he got hired off of like a reference, and the guy was very quiet, and you'd be like, all right, we're trying to get like a gauge for this guy. But when he would open his mouth, you're like, dang, dude, like you've really got
Mm,
it figured out. He
yeah.
definitely had the like mentality of an 18-year-old, and over time we watched him mature a lot throughout his time there, which
Mhm.
was really cool to see somebody that had a bunch of talent, but not a lot of like real applicable experience. And over the course of like the 2 years that we worked with him on the backside, it was like the dude had grown a lot, and that was really, really cool to see. So, um,
So
so
so you
oh, go
kind
ahead.
of yeah. Well, we kind of jumped because we started talking about Zillow, but
Mhm.
what about your first company in Redwood? Was it like how
Redwood
long?
City.
Redwood City. How long did you end up working there? You got that job at the startup. How long did you
Mhm.
end up working there?
I was there for 9 months, and that wasn't that long, I
Mhm.
realized. But I remember being over California, and that was a time when I was like, I want to go to Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Um, so then I found I was interviewing for places in Seattle. And I found this company called The Platform that's an HBO subsidiary, and
Okay.
so and they hired me as an SDET. So when I moved to Seattle from that job in Redwood City, I was working as an SDET, which is software developer engineer and test.
Okay. Okay.
So they expect you to code, but only in the context of like unit testing, integration testing. So it's kind of like a weird model they had. I don't see a lot of companies that have SDETs
I heard
anymore.
that Microsoft does. Yeah, I don't know if they still do, but I knew when I graduated, I had some friends who went to Microsoft as SDET or SDET 2 or something like that. So I don't know
Mm.
if they still do that.
What do you think about that position? Like, was it good? Was it like positive or powerful at this company, or is it better to do it a different way?
Um, as an SDET, I felt that I did learn a lot about testing. It definitely made me more thorough tester, but
Mhm.
I also felt like why can't I just like write the code and then write the tests for the code too? Like
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't like being like, siloed into the tester role.
Yeah. So somebody writes the cool new feature and then they give it to you. Hey, now you test my code.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never found that because then you're just it feels like a waste of time because now this person has to go read what you did and learn how it works and
Mhm.
Well, maybe there's a benefit there though as well, because
yeah, it's
because
true.
in a way you were still like a junior at this
Yeah.
level, and so because like in video game companies, a lot of times the new people don't just go get to work on the graphics engine. They work on like the tools, right? So it's like you can't really break. It's like if you break the tool, it sucks, but that's internal. So maybe that's the thought behind. I'm not saying that's the best way either, but maybe that's like the thought behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know, where is Redwood? Is that in the Seattle area?
No,
So
Redwood is in
Redwood,
California.
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
Redwood
okay,
City
okay.
is in the Bay Area. It's like 30 minutes south of San Francisco.
Mm.
So
Um,
so you worked there for how many years before going to Seattle?
at that startup, I was only there for 9 months, but I was in like Bay Area for like 4 years.
Mm.
And then you've been in Seattle for 2 years or three or
No,
Since 2015, so
okay,
oh, so for 5 years.
okay.
5 years
Oh,
I've
so
been
so how
here.
many so how many years total have you been programming?
So I was counting like that job in Redwood City and then all the jobs I've had in Seattle, which is about 6 years.
Okay.
Okay. So what would you say is like the difference culturally and professionally in the programming industry between like the Bay and Seattle?
That's a good question because I much much more preferred Seattle's programming industry. Just like it was more relaxed. But I don't know if you guys have been to the Bay Area, but everyone there is in competition mode, trying to create their own company, or like they have friends who started their own companies, and so they're trying. Like there's this mindset there. Like you have to
Be working.
I don't know. There.
Yeah. I have some buddies still in the Bay Area, and that's kind of it. Everybody's reading books on startups, and everyone's working at a current startup while trying to start their own startup.
Exactly. I didn't like that at all. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, if you're into that, that's great. But I was kind of looking for more work-life balance type situation. And I found that in Seattle. People like will go to work and they'll work, but then they'll go home or like just take long lunch breaks. And it was just more relaxed. And I kind of like that extra like competitive like air was kind of gone. So although Seattle's starting to ramp up for sure.
Yeah, I've heard that they're like people say it's like 10 years behind.
Yeah.
Like the Bay area. I don't know.
Yeah. So your current job now, you've been there for how many years?
So Accord I got in August. So
Of this year. So
this year. So I've kind of been jumping around this year, especially. I jumped from Zillow to a startup called Knock, and from Knock to Accord.
So you found 2 jobs during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's pretty challenging. Wow.
Yeah.
Was this new one because of any particular reason that you can share, or was it?
Oh yeah. So I went from Zillow to Knock because I was looking for like a dog friendly workspace, and Zillow I was on the rental team, and it was kind of
a what? A dog friendly workspace?
Where you could bring your dog to work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a thing? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I heard Zappos does it, but I didn't know it was a big thing.
I would love to bring my dog to work. One of them. The other 2 are spazzes, but I would take one of them. That's super cool. Okay, so dog friendly workplace. So that was. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so that was one reason. Also, Zillow started getting the rental org started getting a little slow. Zillow kind of changed its focus from rental and for sale to like Zillow offers. So we weren't getting a lot of feature work, and I was kind of like twiddling my thumbs, like, what am I gonna work on now? So I was like, okay, it'd be cool if I worked at a startup as a full stack, and I could bring my dog to work. So that was like the goal.
These are my requirements.
Yeah. And luckily, this was in March when I got the job. The pandemic was just like, it hadn't even been like official yet. It was just like,
I think lockdown
stuff is going
didn't start
down
until like mid March or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I like
Seattle.
Oh, I heard it was going even longer than that.
No. That's when the lockdown. That was when.
I see.
That's when we did our work from home as well.
Yeah.
So, I got the job at that startup. It was called Knock, and I was in the office for all of 2 weeks before they shut down.
The whole company shut down?
They had everyone work from home, and then the company itself actually faced a lot of issues. They did a round of layoffs.
Okay.
I wasn't in that round, but I got really nervous. I don't know how.
Been there 2 weeks.
And then they like had this company-wide meeting that they were laying people off, and they were really like sneaky about it. Like it was 30 minutes before it happened. They said, okay, everyone join this Zoom call, and we're going to lay people off, but we're not going to tell you to the end of the meeting who's been laid off. So I was just like, that left a bad taste in my mouth. I was like, I'm going to look for another job because I don't trust leadership. And it seems like I'm at risk for layoffs if they have another round. So, and that's when I was interviewing, found the job at Accord where I am now. So that explains the high turnover for me for this year.
So what do you do with this new job? Do you like it? Is it like, what is your role involved?
So I'm a full stack, and it's the company itself is fully remote, which is a huge perk. I was like, you know what? Everyone's going remote. Awesome. Why not look for a company that does 100% remote? So so new. Like this company is so new and they have so many features that they want to get out that you just pick up a big feature and then you work on it. And I mean, you aren't even required to get like PR approvals to like merge your code in. Like they're just like develop like crazy, get all these features out.
That's how our company was as well, because like there was one iOS developer and one Android developer, and the thing was we need an app today. And so like we weren't worried about like PRs.
So
go ahead.
This is new for me. I was a little nervous to like tell you guys like, oh yeah, we don't require approvals on our PRs. Kevin's appalled by that. But I'm working on tons of stuff. Like it's actually a lot of work. Just because there's like a learning curve for me because I just have so much visibility into like creating new features. Like I can make so many decisions, and so it's actually really nice.
That's really cool.
So I wear a product hat, but I also get to like design it, and then.
So now your current job is your dream job, because you get to do full stack. You get, like you said, you get to wear the product hat. You probably got a raise. I'm just guessing there. You get to be fully remote, which is pretty awesome. And that because you're fully remote, you get to hang out with your dog all day.
Yeah, it's dog friendly.
Yeah, super dog friendly at the house. But you have some cats too, so there's a little tension there.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, the only downside I would say is like because it's a startup, there's a pace that they kind of push, like kind of passively. They'll push, and but then I'll feel it, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna work a little extra.
But maybe some of that is because as we were getting set up, like the viewers aren't going to know this, but as we were getting set up, she was multitasking because we were chatting with her before we started recording, and she was on the side working on some design work or something. Was that because of the pace, or was it because you also just really enjoy what you're doing?
So kind of weird, but I wasn't even working on work. I was I'm creating like a side project. I haven't done that before. I'm wondering if you guys have side projects, but I'm like taking a break from work because the holidays are actually great for relaxing from work. Like they're not pushing anything right now. So I'm like, why don't I start my own side project? And that's kind of like, I'm at a point where I'm kind of like, how can I really ramp up my skills? And one of my coworkers is like, side projects, like something that you're interested in. And I was like, okay, I don't want to work outside of work, but all right, if it's something I'm interested in. So I'm just kind of like brainstorming an app that I would like feel excited about doing, even though I like.
If you have questions about app development, there's two people here who are pretty decent at it.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it as a web app, but also maybe React Native.
Yeah, because then you get all of the skills. Yeah, you can do your full stack because you can. That's what's so cool about. I didn't know how to like set up servers or do the back end. I'm not an expert, but before I met Cole, I didn't know how to. There was like that whole chunk of I couldn't possibly start an app because I don't know how to create a server or deploy a database, blah blah. I didn't know that. So it's really cool that you could actually do it. You as like an employee of one could build an app, which is how a bunch of that stuff got started anyway.
Have you done any work with React Native before? You mentioned maybe using that.
I've only done React, but I hear that I may be able to jump over without too much resistance and just not too bad of a learning curve.
Yeah, you should be able to. I'd be curious if you start using it to see what your thoughts are on it. Actually, at my current job, when I got hired, there was like the like requirement was I got hired in September, and they said by December we need an app, and it needs to be live on Android and iOS, and it needs to allow our users to like view all their content and this and that. And so I had really no other choice but to use some kind of framework, and I ended up using React Native. I had never used it before. It was the first time I'd used it, but I kind of just learned on the job and built it with that. And I have really nothing but good things to say about the framework itself. The only thing that I would say was a drawback in the end for me was that the app that we built required a lot of like custom work. And whenever you're creating like very custom views and stuff, you have to build them natively and then basically like bridge them over to your React Native code. So like, because all of the components that you're using in React Native are actually native components that were built using like Swift or whatever. Um, and so, anyways, if you end up having to do something super custom, you end up having to create it and then bridge it over. So for us, that was kind of painful because we had a lot of that. And so it was like, I'm spending just as much time writing this custom stuff as I am the React code. I may as well just build these things natively with how much stuff we're doing. But if that's not the case for the app that is being built, then I think it's a really great thing. But I'm curious, once you start building, I'd love to like follow up with you and hear what your thoughts are on it.
Oh yeah, and if you don't mind me pinging you about some questions if I have some issues with it.
Actually, the thing is, I guess with React Native, because I said, hey, I offered our services to help her with mobile development, but obviously she knows Kevin, who's been doing it for like 7 or 8 years.
Oh yeah, she lives with somebody.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Hey, can you check out my code? Should I call somebody who lives in Nevada or talk to my housemate?
The guy right here.
Yeah, he hasn't. I don't think he's done React Native. He's only done native stuff.
Yeah.
I would not say that I'm a React Native expert, but I could try to help you out. It's been a couple of years now since I've worked on it, but yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's a really awesome framework. Props to the guys at Facebook that built it. I mean, it's a really, really cool thing. And it's really good for the community, especially so people can really like just bootstrap apps and get them up and going. It's really cool. So, so at this point, well, I guess two questions. Number one, are you at all interested in ever doing app development? And if so, or if not, like where do you see your career going in the future?
I really don't. I feel like app development is like interesting, and I'm on my phone a lot, and I have ideas for apps, but I'm a little nervous about switching from like JavaScript and Node to like Swift. It's like
but Java,
mm-hmm.
So you could do Android. Is that not even on the radar?
I did a little bit of that at Amazon. I did some Android stuff, but yeah, that was I don't know. I haven't really been thinking about it. I think my goal right now in the short term is to like have a side project and like spin it up. And actually, I mean, you were saying I am full stack and I know how to access the database and I know how, how to update a server, but I don't know how to like deploy a server to the cloud and actually like get permissions set up. And so like, I have a lot to learn. Like doing my own side project is going to like have me touch on some things that I don't have to do. It's already set up in my company. Like someone already figured out how to like, there's a build pipeline already. Like it deploys the builds and
I can try to help you with that. I didn't know that either. That's what he taught me. So we use this platform called DigitalOcean. Like you could use AWS, but DigitalOcean was just dirt simple. And you can either just set up your own like SQL, like my SQL server or whatever, something like that. I just have fun doing it myself. So I did it like 10 or 11 times to make a back end. And then I would just delete the server and then do it again. So I ended up also building like some scripts for it. I'm not like an expert at it either, but like to me, that was so fascinating to be able to like do that step.
Yeah. And if you,
actually you have, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
Well, our YouTube channel has some like tutorials. Didn't you create a tutorial on how to do like a DigitalOcean droplet and a Laravel backend? No, okay.
I built like a Laravel app, but I didn't. I don't think I deployed it. That actually might be some good content. I would love to maybe do something about DigitalOcean and setting up servers. And so here's the thing: realistically, at a company, like you're never gonna set up a server the way that you and I have done it.
Yeah.
That's more us just tinkering. Although DigitalOcean is a great platform for hosting stuff, I don't mean it in that sense. I just mean we do everything manually. But here's what I would say. If you're interested in it, DigitalOcean hands down has the top number one best documentation in the industry on setting up stuff on like an Ubuntu or they have a bunch of stuff. They have like Debian, they have all sorts of different images, but they have some awesome documentation. You can go on there and look up like just Google like DigitalOcean Laravel,
so
whatever.
I can send you some links on how to get that set up. Obviously you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but I have all those bookmarked because there's like 4 or 5 steps to get our Laravel stuff set up. I just did it a whole bunch of times. So it's not like I figured it out all on my own. I just keep following these tutorials.
But their tutorials, their documentation is second to none. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. You can get an application up and it will tell you everything down to setting permissions on this directory and adding like SSL certificates and like doing everything manually. It's fantastic. I super recommend it. But then once you figured that out, it's cool because then you can jump in and use tools like Forge for Laravel, or there's like Heroku for Node. I mean, Heroku does a lot of different stuff. Realistically, you would use that at an actual job. You wouldn't set everything up manually, but it's really cool to learn how to do it manually, and then you can appreciate these tools and stuff. So anyways, we'll send some stuff over, some really cool documentation. It's definitely worth checking out. It seems like daunting and intimidating, but I mean,
that's
like I
the
said,
cool thing. It's like a superpower once you can do it.
I mean, the idea that you now can put anything on the web for anybody to see with your own server, it's super cool. And like, I've always had like a $10, I think it's like $5 or $10 a month, just a little DigitalOcean server going, and you can put as many websites as you want on one server. And so I just maintain that thing and I just add stuff all the time or whatever. So, so it's a lot of fun. So does that mean that maybe in the future you want to get into like a DevOps role potentially?
No.
That's a leap.
I just I want to know how to do it if I'm going to be creating content on my own and creating my own web apps or apps. You just have to know how to do this stuff. So DigitalOcean looks pretty cool. I was thinking about using like Google Cloud with like Pulumi or something, but I wonder if DigitalOcean is like, is it like Pulumi? Like it's I don't know what's the name for it. It just kind of helps you spin up resources on the cloud and manage permissions and
I mean, this is, it sounds like, I'm not familiar with Pulumi, but this is just a way of like, it's super cool because it's meant for like all levels of skill, DigitalOcean, and they like walk you through. It's very easy to set one up, and it just it's more like I want to say it's like a micro version of AWS, but it's not even micro. I mean, DigitalOcean is maybe not as big of a company as AWS is, but it's got all of the capabilities of AWS and allows you to spin up like, you could spin up like S3 buckets or the equivalent of an S3 bucket for like storage.
Load balancers and stuff
load balancers, database servers, and
they have their own hosting solution.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And you can... you can like, there's a bunch of stuff in there. You can manage like DNS stuff. And I mean, it's really, really cool. It's a really awesome tool. I love DigitalOcean. Again, it does the same thing as AWS, but I just think it's like a friendlier interface to look at.
We're not sponsored. But we would be.
We totally would be. Good job, DigitalOcean. You guys rock. Yeah, it's super cool. I'm glad that was the first one that was shown to me when I got interested in like DevOps, I guess. Like, I don't want to be a DevOps engineer, but whenever I wanted to learn about it, that was the first one that was shown to me. And it's pretty cool. I definitely recommend checking it out. And I just cannot stress enough, thank you guys for all of the documentation. Some companies don't take that stuff seriously, but DigitalOcean definitely does.
Well, I think it's done by the community there. Like, I think
so too.
I think you get points, because I remember looking this up because I wanted to do it. I think you like get points or like credits if you like say, okay, this new version of Ubuntu just came out, but there's no documentation for it. So if you write this, then maybe you get some credits.
So I guess like closer to the end of the podcast, we kind of like to give people a chance to like sort of just give some advice to the community of developers that are kind of looking to get into the industry, or maybe looking to like start interviewing, or maybe start learning. Like, do you have any like profound advice that would like help somebody looking to get into the industry?
That's too intimidating.
Sorry.
Give me something profound.
Give me something profound
on
now.
The spot. So okay, ignore the profound, but like, would you have any advice for like how people can get started?
Well, really, once your resume piques the interest of recruiters, you really just need to learn how to interview for programming jobs. And once you know how to do that, like you're familiar with the format, you've read books, you practice, and then you just kind of keep your expectations, like you try to draw them in, like you're not going to blow them out of the water. It's going to be hard. Every interview you have, like just try to do your best and tell them what you're thinking about. I think when you're quiet, that they're either like, they don't know what they're doing, or you're not sharing enough. So just, they like to hear you speak, and it's go through your thought process. So really like to get into the industry, just get a job somewhere, interview at as many places as you can, and don't expect to like get an offer everywhere you interview. Like you might be really smart, you might be able to do it, but like some people like me, like I got so many passes on interviews that I thought I did well on, or I thought I was like, oh, I did pretty good, like I should probably hear back. So I just cast a wide net, just interview in many places you can. Not only do you get practice, but it increases your chances of getting an offer. And just good luck, because
good luck.
Interviewing is going to be the worst. It's the
worst. here's the advice. Interviewing, it's the worst.
So as far as like getting the interview, obviously to get an interview, you need to make yourself an appealing candidate. What would you suggest as advice to, like, if you don't have any like formal experience like at a job, how would you kind of boost your resume or prepare yourself?
Like, I guess another, or like you can answer that, but do you think people need to go to college? Like, you obviously did go to college, but you went for electrical engineering versus like software development.
I don't know. My feeling is that is if you have a degree and then it's kind of technical in nature, that'll be enough. But if you don't have a degree, if you go to a hacking school, boot camp, that's a really good investment. That may be all you need. And if you are one who says, no, I don't want to pay the hacker rank or Hack Reactor tuition, I don't want to go to college, I think you're going to have to create some projects on your own. I think you're going to have a portfolio. So, I mean, it's doable. If you don't want to go to college, you don't want to spend tuition money, you're going to have to create something to show. But really, I think the best course is, like, if I could do it again, either just do computer science to begin with or do the boot camp. I feel like I've known so many coworkers who've done the boot camp and they learned so much. I probably would have done that if I could go back.
Cool.
Shameless plug. You could also look at the CODESHO YouTube channel, where we have tons of tutorials on how to become an iOS developer. Just throwing that out there. We're not sponsored
by them,
or yeah.
You don't need accreditation.
You can say I did the CODESHO tutorials, and we're like world renowned. So if you did our tutorials, people are going to know that
Amazon would just hire you.
Yeah, Amazon would be like, oh, CODESHO, you guys really did. We know those guys. Matt and Cole are real talented dudes. Anyways, I mean, that's really it, Rachel. We really appreciate you coming on. It's really cool getting the opinion or getting the perspective of somebody else. It's just, again, I can't say it enough. Like, it's just crazy how different everybody's experience has been. You also have a very unique one, and we really appreciate you coming on to share your perspective.
Thanks for having me. Happy to talk about it, and hopefully I didn't bore you guys.
No.
I think this is the best episode.
Yeah, this was a fantastic
episode. Really
episode.
Interesting one. Yeah.
It was really, really cool. So that's episode 26, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see everybody next week.
Bye.